Awo went to the north. Awo had gone to the north to campaign, and it was very, very. It was pushy, right? They were doing things that nobody else had ever done in Nigeria's political history up until that moment. They were using helicopters in 1959, right? They were distributing pamphlets. They called it rain. They rain leaflets on different parts of the country. They were invasive, right? They were doing crazy things, right? Just to try and get people to vote for Action Group in different parts. Normally, the Sardauna would not even campaign, and that's because, you see, he's Fulani. In that area, of course, it's a feudalist structure, so he belongs to the aristocracy. There's no need for the aristocrats to walk the earth and beg for votes from serfs and commoners. It was beneath his dignity. But he had to keep that dignity somewhere and go on the campaign trail when he saw what Awolowo was doing. There was a particular period when he went to a restaurant, he was eating, and when he got to the restaurant, he brought out his handkerchief and blew his nose and saw dust. He saw dust in the handkerchief, and he vowed never to forgive Awolowo. It's in the book, it's in one of these books, Travels of Democracy and the Rule of Law. We'll read it when the time comes. Just give you an idea how the side gets in the north agitated about Action Group, apart from other things. Having said that, let's continue reading now.
So I'm reading The Forgotten Documents of the Civil War by Wetie.
So I'm reading The Forgotten Documents of the Civil War by Wetie. In particular, regarding the 1962 treasonable felony trial involving him, that's Awo, and 27 others, any objective observer could have seen that Awolowo had done that. What Awolowo had done, apart from organizing a political party, was being a thorn in the flesh of the independence government, that's NPC and NEPU. In the face of the evident plans to destroy his party so that the coalition partners could chop up its remains, he had vowed that he and his party would make the West ungovernable rather than let the region be taken outside the electoral process. His party began to train people to make sure that no undemocratic victories would befall the region. The party sent apparatchiks to Ghana to train. So the accusation during the treasonable felony trial that they were sending guerrillas for training in Ghana was correct, insofar as it was not stretched to imply that it was pursuant to carrying out a coup against the government of the Federation. What is generally ignored by the narrators of this segment of Nigeria's history, in spite of the admission of its truth by critical participants, is that time was training toughs for armed struggle. It may be a secret to those who never bothered to look at what was happening outside the newspapers. This is backhandedly confirmed by Tanko Yakasai in his recent autobiography, where he retails an added dimension that NEPU pro-insurgents were in league with the Cameroonian political party in sending activists for training in Eastern Europe. This should of course be understood against the background of the struggle in the north between NPC thugs, Jamia Maokata, sons of madmen, who wore wooden or akushi hats, described in Alan Feinstein's African Revolutionary as having semi-official sanction to fight against southern dominance. They subsequently extended their terrorism to a group of NEPU adherents, so that NEPU retaliated with a positive action wing, who wore calabash helmets and were determined to resist the NPC's routine assaults that saw candidates of the opposition jailed or killed, their houses and farms destroyed, and in the case of opposition parties from the south, whole city-wide or region-wide riots organized to distance them from power. NEPU went beyond a PAW response to Maokata. The party, as Tanko Yakasai authoritatively reveals, already had experience in the training of guerrillas for the Cameroonian Sawaba party. What's it saying here? Did they send people to Ghana to train? Yes. Were they trained to organize a coup in Nigeria? No. Were they the only party sending people to be trained to protect their region? No. Now, this was late 50s, early 60s. You were already losing the plot. You know that the police is not going to protect you. You know that the army, of course, is off your hands. So, Action Group was not in power at the center. It was opposition. Now, at home, it was divided. One part was working with both NPC and NCC. By the way, in the beginning, Akintola's group was actually working with NCNC and NPC. It was later on that he broke away from NCNC and focused on NPC. Then Awolowo's group now began to work with NCNC to create UPGA. That was much later. So here is the problem. You don't have any power at the center, right? So if, for instance, the other party were to do something to hurt you, or your party, or maybe your elections or voting, whatever, you couldn't bank on the police being fair. I have to find a way to explain this without saying a lot, but I'm sure you're going to get it. You have to protect your vote. Let me explain it this way. Does anybody here remember Babadejibu?
Does anybody here remember Babadejibu?
Just in the comment section. Does anybody here remember Babadejibu?
No. I want to understand what.
If you know, if you don't, just let me know. Then I'll know. I want to understand where I should take the conversation. You remember him, Abi? When Currency said with a laughing woo with it. Thank you, Lagos. When Currency said with a laughing woo with it, that's what he was talking about. They are saying that Babadejibu was one of those people who you used to woo Antita way back in the 60s. Yes, Olosha Molete. The idea basically is that at that time, your opponent has his own thugs, and he also has the machinery of government, has the police, has thugs, has everybody. You are open. This is not the moral argument, by the way, just to make it very clear. You needed Adedibu. The North had thugs, the East had thugs, the North and the East had the police, they are the army, you are the Western region, you are opposition, you have no powers. Who will protect you? You have to raise people to go and learn how to protect your region, not to have a coup. So when you say he sent people to Ghana, of course he did. I mean, the party did, and I was the leader of the party. And it's not a big deal at the time. Why? Because even the North sent people to Eastern Europe. Let me read it again.
It says his party began to train people to make sure that no undemocratic victories.
It says his party began to train people to make sure that no undemocratic victories will befall the region. Because I want to English is meant for house. We are talking, we are intellectual. But when it gets to the street, these guys have street guys. You can't be saying hallelujah, amen. You have to also protect your own space. So in actual fact, it was raising a team to defend the quote-unquote integrity of his own space. Just like others did. It's just that they were training people to actually infiltrate and invade other people's spaces. But let's read here. Again, I'm reading the Obafemi's book. It says here, the Action Group, that's Awolowo's party, his party began to train people to make sure that no undemocratic victories would befall the region. The party sent apparatus, people, communist guys, sent them to Ghana to train. So the accusation during the Treason felony trial that they were sending guerrillas for training in Ghana was correct, insofar as it was not stretched to imply that it was pursuant to carrying out a coup against the government of the Federation. So if you say Action Group sent people to Ghana to train, you would be right. But if you say, oh, they went to train because they're going to have a coup, you are wrong. What is generally ignored by the narrators of this segment of Nigeria's history, in spite of the admission of its truth by critical participants, is that every Nigerian political party at that time was training thugs for armed struggle. Oh, sorry, was training tough for armed struggle.
In Nigeria at the time was training tough for armed struggle. Is it the only one who is saying this? I mean, he was working with Awo now, so why should we believe him? So he did something very nice.
Working with Awo now, so why should we believe him? So he did something very nice. He mentioned the man called Tanko Yakasai. Who you know? I'm sure you must have seen him in the news. It may be a secret to those who never bothered to look at what was happening outside the newspapers. In other words, if you're not a participant in politics, if you belong to no political party, this may be news to you. But if you were an insider, you knew what was happening, by the way. So it says here, it may be a secret to those who never bothered to look at what was happening outside the newspapers. This is backhandedly confirmed by Tanko Yakasai in his recent autobiography, where he retails an added dimension that NEPU pro-insurgents were in league with the Cameroonian political party in sending activists for training in Eastern Europe. Why would NEPU do that? NEPU is Aminu Kano's party. Why would they do that? Because of NPC. Oh, NEPU, Northern Elements. That's what we call them, Northern Elements. In the north. NPC in the north. But NPC are thugs. In fact, let's just keep reading, so I won't have to even explain too much. I may explain again, but let's just read again. So it says here, this is backhandedly confirmed by Tanko Yakasai in his recent autobiography, where he retails an added dimension that NEPU pro-insurgents were in league with the Cameroonian political party. This should, of course, be understood against the background of the struggle in the north between NPC's thugs, Jamia Maokata, or Sons of Madmen, who wore wooden or akushi hats, described in Alan Feinstein's African Revolutionary as having semi-official sanction to fight against Southern dominance. So in other words, NPC had a group called Jamia Maokata. They were the thugs that NPC used. If you read, let me find you a book. I just remember something now. I just remember something. I did not think of this when I was preparing, but this is good. This is going to be nice. There's something that Sheo Shagari said. Mambo, I'm coming. Just a second. There's something Sheo Shagari said in his book. I think it's going to help this conversation. But I really hope I can find it very fast. When did they bring these people in? Was it before the coup? I think it was before the coup. Just give me a second. You're going to love it. You will love it. That's how Ola of Lagos says it, Abi. You will love it. What I want to read to you, I want to read a politician who was in government describe a particular group of people that they had to use to protect themselves in Lagos, even though it was a northerner. So I'm going to read Beckon to Serve by Sheo Shagari. Finally, I found it. Was there all the while? Yeah, I found it. Let me read to you guys. You're going to like it. So this happened in October 65, right? The same year we're discussing.
In October 1965, elections were held. At this time, I was already in prison.
It says, in October 1965, elections were held. At this time, I was already in prison. So we'll get back to where we were before. In October 1965, elections were held in the Western Region of Assembly, into the Western Regional House of Assembly as agreed under the settlement of the constitutional crisis earlier that year. So just going to jump very quickly. So he says the elections were won by the NNDP. Actually, it was rigged. Like, I've read many books on that election. They rigged that election. They announced the result of that election before they finished counting it. So there's no way on earth you are going to say they won. NNDP, by the way, was Akintola's party. Okay, he revived the name of Herbert Macaulay's party that he had in 1923. So Akintola used that name again. So, but we're reading Sheshagari. He's saying that they won, but the elections were won by the NNDP, but as might be expected, greeted with allegations of widespread rigging and other malpractices from the AG. Served the past master of the game. His deeds were exaggerated. The alleged pre-election bravado of such figures like Chief Remi Ifani Kayode, the deputy premier Western Region, that the NNDP would win the elections, whether it was voted for or not, did not help matters. In other words, Goto saw no. He had said it that whether you vote or not, you're going to win. So I think that was also an issue. Let's continue. A was unleashed by AG thugs and sympathizers who attacked, maimed, and killed their opponents. Operation Wetie. I'll tell that again. A reign of terror was unleashed by AG thugs and sympathizers who attacked, maimed, and killed their opponents. When you hear that, you'll be like, how can they have thugs now? You are the one that Obafemi was talking about earlier when he said people that were reading newspapers. So you are the newspaper man. Let's talk about reality. Operation Wetie, by which opponents were doused with petrol and then set ablaze, became rife. So we're going to jump all the way to what now happened to his own people. The unrest spread to Lagos, where AG thugs continued with the mayhem and killings. So intense and widespread was the violence that the efforts of the police to maintain law and order were stretched to the limit. Listen though, federal members of parliament from other parts of the federation traveling to Lagos by train did so with armed escorts. Non-Obga MPs who risked traveling by road were robbed and attacked and their vehicles burnt. When it became utterly dangerous, this is where we're going. When it became utterly dangerous for NPC federal legislators to travel to Lagos for sittings of federal parliament, the party headquarters, NPC, Northern People's Congress, the party's headquarters in Kaduna decided to ensure their safety. Personal bodyguards drawn from a genre of people known in Hausa as Yantauri, which means tough characters, who by some sort of supernatural means are immune to injury from offensive weapons like knives, swords, machetes, and chisels, were recruited from all over the north and gathered in Kaduna. Each of the legislators was allocated 2 bodyguards. The party entrusted me with the task of feeding the Yantauri, numbering about 200, while they were in Lagos. 50 bags of rice and money were sent from Kaduna for the purpose. I hired a contractor, Alhaji Buhari Agege, to feed the bodyguards. They were staying with their escortees at Lego Flats, the legislative quarters, whose acronym derived from the erstwhile Legislative Council. Those are the Yantauri. They were armed. They protect, but they also fight. They sent them all the way from Kaduna to Lagos, 200 of them. When was this? 65. It did not begin in 65, by the way. It's been there since before independence. And just like we read now, let's go back to what we're reading. So I'm glad I read that. The point is just to highlight that, you might say, Obafemi is Awolowo's big. This man is talking about the fact that, listen guys, we did it. This is Sheshagari. They had to, quote unquote, protect themselves in Lagos. And they brought in what they called 200, and there were 50 bags of rice. Now I hope these things you are connecting them. We'll connect everything together, okay? So you have to read in different places to be able to make sense of all these things. So what are we trying to explain? We're trying to explain that everybody had to have that group of Eruku, right? They were the thugs that made it easy for you to speak English. And I know it doesn't sound very nice since we're all gentlemen, right? But it is what it is, isn't it? So let's go back to this book. This is Awolowo and the Forgotten Documents of Nigerian Civil War by Obafemi. It says here, what is generally ignored by the narrators of this segment of Nigeria's story, in spite of the admission of its truth by critical participants, is that every Nigerian political party at that time was training tough for armed struggle. It may be a secret to those who never bothered to look at what was happening outside the newspapers. This is backhandedly confirmed by Tanko's biography, where he retails an added dimension that NEPU pro-insurgents were in league with the Cameroonian political party. So NEPU in the north, they're working with folks in Cameroon to send people to Eastern Europe to go and train. Why? Because of NPC thugs. In sending activists for training in Eastern Europe. This should of course be understood against the background of the struggle in the north between NPC thugs, Jamia Maokata, sons of madmen, who wore wooden or akushi hats, described in Alan Feinstein's African Revolutionary as having semi-official sanction to fight against southern dominance. The Yantauri was 65. Those ones came as bodyguards. These Jamia Maokata, these ones, they were sent to essentially deal with anybody that wants to affect, they call it southern dominance. By the way, if you move mad in the north at the time, the first people that first slap your face and deal with you are these guys. Before the streets will now say, okay, what happened in 66 when Igbos were killed? You can't divorce it from the activities of these guys, because their plan was to essentially ensure that there will be no southern dominance. They subsequently extended their terrorism to a group of NEPU adherents wing. So when NEPU saw them doing what they were doing, NEPU now decided to create their own group. They called it Positive Action Wing, PAW, who wore calabash helmets and were determined to resist the NPC's routine assaults that saw candidates of the opposition jailed. So NPC guys used to jail, kill. Please read this book. Adventure is a power book too. Traverse of Democracy and the Rule of Law by Awolowo. You will see what these guys did to action group candidates in the north. They were Hausas, they were minorities, they were Northerners, but they were not an NPC, and they were dealt with by these NPC thugs. So much so that NEPU, who they were also in the north, they had to create their own group of thugs. Although they give them a very nice name, PAW, Positive Action Wing. Just the positive. The only positive thing there is that if you bring your own, you collect. Anyway, but these were calabash helmets, and they were determined to resist the NPC's routine assaults that saw candidates of the opposition jailed or killed, their houses and farms destroyed, and in the case of opposition parties from the south, whole citywide or region-wide riots organized to distance them from power. When did this happen? You see this happen in 1953. You see, when we talk about the fact that Igbos were killed in 1953, it's not also, you can also divorce that from this group. Who did what they did in the north based on what happened in Lagos? I don't want to change the topic, but the point essentially is that they will do anything to ensure that nobody would be able to undermine the political interests of NPC in the north. And now that NPC was at the center, they would also ensure that they will extend their power. So what it means basically is that if you have sense as a political party, you would have to do what NEPU is also doing in the north. You have to do it, and everybody did it. And it's not a moral question, it's a question of survival.
NEPU went beyond the PAW response response to Malkata. The party has Yankasai authoritatively.
NEPU went beyond a PAW response to Malkata. The party, as Tanko Yankasai authoritatively reveals, already had experience in the training of guerrillas for the Cameroonian Sawaba party. In relation to the South, the NPC idea was actually quite fundamentalist because it was primed by the conception of a national army as a catchment of thugs for realizing partisan ends. The truth of this can now be checked against the testimonies of several NPC stalwarts. They had sent several of their young men into the Nigerian army
When the military would be needed to settle political scores.
to prepare for the day when the military would be needed to settle political scores.
I'll say something to you. We'll come back to this.
I'll read something to you. We'll come back to this book.
I hope you understand the reason I moved from one book to another. Don't worry, I want to explain something. Or we could use book
I hope you understand the reason I moved from one book to another. Don't worry. I want to explain something. But we could use book to explain book.
This is
from
This is from Campaigns of Terror in Nigerian Election
by Yemi Babatunde. It was published in The Guardian of 23rd December 1964. This is what he said there. An unpopular government regarded by many people as stooges of the North must try to cajole or to threaten the population to vote for it. AG and NNDP adopted long before the elections the system of creating private armies of thugs under the name of party stalwarts. They are on the payroll of the party. They are mobilized and they are armed with knives and guns. Their job is to break up rival party meetings, to intimidate the population in general. Thugs beat up. This was what NNDP was doing at the time because NNDP and AG wanted splitting by. Thugs beat up opposition leaders. This is not what I was looking for. It's also important, but this is not what I was looking for. Okay, I found what I was looking for. I found it. I'll read that later. This is what I was looking for. This is from Between the Ethnic and National by Remi Adekoya. For instance, in 1961, it was decided 50% of all military officers would be Northerners, regardless of their qualifications, vis-a-vis their Southern compatriots. Southerners became increasingly frustrated with a federal system that prioritized ethnicity over merit. What I'm saying here is saying that in 61, the North was saying 50% of all military officers must be Northerners. And Odiafemon is saying that around this time, instead of Jesus, God, it's only God that can make Nigeria work. Only God. Instead of just having this catchment of thugs around the place, why not get some of them as your so-called repentant? Finish the statement. If you read Nigeria, you cry for this country. And this is I'm not saying, I hope you understand. I'm sure you understand what I'm not saying. If you don't understand, may God give you understanding. Let's go back to the other book. So, as at 61, they're having 50% of the officers have to be Northerners. Or has to be 50% has to be Northerners. You tie it with this one, where not only do you have these thugs who are Eruku, now you are embedding them in the army. Let us read. They had sent several of their young men into the Nigerian army to prepare for the day when the military will be needed to settle political scores. Evidently, the parties in coalition at the federal level, excuse me, Evidently, the parties in coalition at the federal level were neither true to one another nor to themselves. They saw the destruction of the action group differently. They who were busy organizing insurgents against other parties and using even the state apparatus to realize partisan goals needed to hide their activities by accusing the opposition of treason.
Every accusation, what they're accusing the others of,
every accusation is a confession. What they're accusing the others of doing is actually what they were doing.
when the lower corporation to the army to bring him on offense. Yes, now they had the political power at the time.
Your minister says that was when the lower corporation to the army to bring him on offense. Yes, now they had the political power at the time.
Definitely not patriotism.
Why are you packing people into the army?
We are reading the book.
Definitely not patriotism.
You have any problem what I'm saying?
We are reading the book by Obafemi. If you have any problem with what I'm saying, as I'm reading them, I'm telling you their names. As I'm reading, I read Guardian. Just going to be meeting them. If you have any problem with what I'm reading, just saying that Nigerian history is something else. But let's continue. It says here, evidently, the parties in coalition at the federal level were neither true to one another nor to themselves. They saw the destruction of the action group differently. They who were busy organizing insurgents against other parties and using even the state apparatus to realize partisan goals needed to hide their activities. They needed to hide their activities by accusing the opposition of treason. According to Dudley, the NCNC wished that the action group be destroyed, so that they, the only member of the coalition that had a foothold in the West, would inherit the West and then confront the North with the Southern solidarity.
Northerners had their own. The Easterners were not just sitting idle. They also had a plan to destroy.
Northerners had their own. The Easterners were not just sitting idle. They also had a plan to destroy everything in the West. By the time they destroy everywhere, they will now pick up the pieces and become the leaders. Because they were also having issues with the North at this point. The North and the East were already having their own issues as at early 62. It dragged and became, by the time they had the census issue in 62, another one in 63, and then the Constitutional Conference in 64. So they've been having their own wallahs since 61, 62 actually. So they also wanted to get into the West, and by the way, at the time they already had members in the parliament in Ibadan. So if they could corner, and they were also working with Akintola at the point too. Some of the Yorubas have really suffered in Nigeria. Let me tell you our problem, and I hope we learn. Everybody has issues in Nigeria. Yoruba problem is that a man Shirawa. See, there's no ethnicity in this country that can say you better put this something at the center to demonize or destroy anybody's chances, like the Igbos or the Northerners. You can't say that. Tell me where it did not happen. Our own problem is that we'll be fighting amongst ourselves to the point where we'll not be inviting outsiders to come and help us, foolishly thinking that the outsider doesn't have his own plans. So the guy comes, he breaks your home, you fight. By the time you burn down your houses, he will now take from the robbers and build something with one of you, but in his own image. So nobody can accuse us of doing anything, but we create cracks in our own walls because we want to prove that you have a better idea. No sense of collective good. Kini ma ogbe okan lo je fún mi personally. a máa ka àwọn kan nínú series yìí o. Mo lè ń dúró yìí o. I'm doing it intentionally. Oh boy. ọ̀rọ̀ ẹni tí ó fẹ́ sun jẹ tó ń fi po rárá lọ́rọ̀ wa. Thank you, Doctor. And yes, you're right, Dr. Badru. Ẹni tó fẹ́ sun jẹ tó ń fi po rárá. Ṣé ẹ rí mẹ́sàn-án Yorùbá? Ẹ bá wò dáadáa. Àwọn tó lóun fi ṣe aṣíwájú ńlẹ̀ Nàìjíríà yìí wọn Yorùbá. Ẹ bá wò dáadáa. Àwọn tó máa ń lànà pé ibi báyìí ni ká lọ, nǹkan báyìí ni ká ṣe, tó máa mú ìlọsíwájú bá gbogbo ẹ̀dá, kì í kàn ṣe pé ó máa mú ìlọsíwájú bá Yorùbá nìkan o, ìlọsíwájú bá gbogbo ẹ̀yà ní ìlú Nàìjíríà. Ẹ̀yà tó ń ṣe ohun Yorùbá. Táwọn tó, I'm sorry to say, tán fi rán jà sọ bẹ́ẹ̀, àwọn tí wọn ò fi rán tán á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pàdé àkókò mọ́ abala kìíní àbábala kejì tán bára wọn jà, tán máa dàgbò ẹ̀rù tán, ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ní ìkọ̀kọ́ ló máa bá, gbogbo Nàìjíríà ló máa suffer. Let me tell you something. If you destroy something in Yoruba land, now it has happened several times. If you break amongst yourselves, I don't like saying those things in English. Taba ja, tada wala leton, taba pin. Tí ẹ̀yà kan ṣe pé ẹ̀yà kan sọ pé àwọn eléyìí ni máa gbárùkù tì, àwọn kan eléyìí máa gbárùkù tì, wọ́n á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí jà. Tí ẹni méjì yẹn bá ti jà, koríko tó máa jẹ̀yẹ kì í ṣe koríko ilẹ̀ Yorùbá o, koríko Nàìjíríà ló máa jẹ̀yẹ. And I will tell you this, ìjà gbọ́n mi sí omi ò tó mo jù ẹ lọ èmi jù ẹ àmì ìgbàgbọ́ wọn lọ́nà káàkiri gbà yẹn. Òun kọ́ ló jẹ́ káwọn èèyàn lọ ṣe kú o, òun kọ́ ló jẹ́ káwọn tó ṣe rí àwọn Igbo ó ní nǹkan táwọn fẹ́ ṣe tira wọn. In fact, let me switch to English. The Igbos had a plan since 1944 to dominate Nigeria. They had their own plan. We, when planning to dominate anybody, we're trying to make things better for our people. But because of the uniqueness of our leaders, people will see what we're doing and they will begin to copy it. So what that means basically is this: you were called to be a pace setter, an example and a model for others. You're not trying to compete, you're just doing stuff. As you're doing, like, how come we are doing this kind of thing? You're building the first stadium on the continent at that level, right? You're having the first civil station on the continent in 1959, before France, before Ireland. Everybody's wondering, what are these guys doing? You're building the tallest building in West Africa. They want to copy, which is beautiful. As you are doing it, they are also copying, is developing, because you are doing it, you're taking initiative, they are seeing what you're doing and they are copying it, therefore the entire country is growing. You, who were supposed to now be the pace setter, you're now fighting amongst yourselves. The ones who are supposed to be copying you now are supporting either one or the other. When they destroy your region, they're not destroying your region. This is the problem with people that actually fight the Southwest or Yoruba people in Nigeria. If it will not happen again, by the way, but if you, whenever it had happened, successfully destroy whatever was happening in Yoruba land, what you are doing is causing the entire country to retrogress. You are going to retrogress because you have nobody to look up to, and you cannot be the pace setter. You were not made to be so. If you have a feudalist society, you cannot be the pace setter.
You have a society where there's no order or hierarchy, clear hierarchy. You cannot be the pace setter. So neither the north nor the east.
If you have a society where there's no order or hierarchy, clear hierarchy, you cannot be the pace setter. So neither the north nor the east was designed to be pace setter. I am not picking anything up. I'm not even saying it because I'm Yoruba. It's just what it is. So whenever Yoruba people fight amongst themselves, what they are doing is not just to destroy Yoruba people, it's to destroy the entire country. And it's not, when I say destroy, not like they're going to burn anything down, but you will not make progress. You cannot. I'm still thinking about it. Give me 5 things that came out of certain parts of Nigeria that all of us are copying because they came out from those places. since independence. 5 things from the East. So it doesn't look like theory. Tell me 5 things that the East produced that we all began to do after the East did it. Tell me 5 things from the North. It's grace. And it's not grace to be proud of and say, oh, I'm the one that God has called. That's not the point. The point is just that you are, because of your history, because of the circumstances surrounding the formation of your identity, because of your journey, because of everything, you have been positioned in such a way. You had access to education before another group. This is the fact. You had access, you have many of the problems that Nigeria is trying to surmount, you have surmounted. If your Bible were just, if our head was just straight, Malaysia would just be looking up now. Malaysia will just be looking up. We'll be looking up now. Which is I'm very careful with all this nonsense that people do. What you are doing will not just affect your family. It can all this before gay. All this me go to Bafun. I cannot tell. I cannot agree. I cannot agree. For gay. And let us build and stop being a nuisance. And that's what people are doing. Instead of just following the order and building according to the structure, you want to usurp somebody's authority and decide that you also have an idea. Idea Awolowo. And the idea you have is not going to build anything. Just be fighting over supremacy. Rubbish nonsense that we're doing all over the place. I'm angry. I'm angry because we don't understand how little things like this can affect an entire generation. Look at us. And look at Nigeria. As bad as it bad, Oshi better for what's a bad though, Oshi better for at least now. You say come and do that now. You say remove Lagos. Oyo State has almost times 3 of the entire southeastern VAT. So Oshi that, but we cannot be comparing ourselves with those who are less. You just wonder what could have happened. What would we have been as Yoruba people and as Nigeria? I'm just saying this, right? We've got to be smart as Yoruba. All this bickering. If somebody is doing something you don't agree with, just leave the person alone. Go and do your own. But the idea of let's say this crab mentality, pull him down, I also have to prove a point, is nonsense. And we do it. But anybody that does it will not succeed. You will spend your lifetime building stuff that will not grow, because you cannot destroy the collective good of Yoruba people and Nigeria because of your own ego. It will not work. Thank you, Tigil. Because this. I'm trying to say a lot of things without saying some things. So if you see me repeating some things, because I don't want to say certain things. Some people just, they have no, by the way, ask them for ideas. They don't have anything. Listen to them speak. No special ideas, nothing that can actually build the society. Just retarded. The idea basically is that they want to feel that they are clinical, and in feeling, that's their goal in life. The idea that killer le ṣe tó lè ràn gbogbo àwọn ará ìlú lọ́wọ́ à ń rò or àwọn kò kí ń rò èmi jù ẹ ìwọ jù mí on top of ìrègbè kò dé pé wọ́n ti kọ́ kankan ní ìsìn bá pé gbogbo ayé nọ́mbọ̀ àsọdọ̀ wa tó ní kọ́ta ti kọ́ àkọ́ kankan akànjáde àpò òun ni, and I'm saying this because of going to the north to try and destroy something, or going to the east and saying we want to dominate. Number one, what's there to dominate? The point is, what we are doing wrong, we should also tell ourselves the truth. And it should stop. Somebody's writing in the comment section. I say, oh, you're writing in the comment section. You're right. You're very correct. You mentioned the person. You're very correct. I just want to mention it.
Last year, 2025.
Which was what Pastor Tebakari was referring to early this year. I'm sorry, last year, 2025, when they invited him to join ADC. That was what he said.
He said, we are not going to have another Awolowo and Akintola in the
Let me tell you what he said. He said, we're not, this is what he said. He said, we are not going to have another Awolowo and Akintola. I said, that's good. That's the person that understands politics. Understands the political history of Nigeria. If you go and do Awolowo and Akintola, it's not just about Yoruba land. It will affect all of us. We will now become the kings amongst Lungu. You know, the kings of the Lungu, you look around the Lungu, all of them are not skinny, but you have a skyscraper. Yasipo. That's what my father used to say when I was young, and it's true. Someone says regional autonomy without the tension of it. That was regional autonomy when this thing happened. There was regional autonomy when this happened. Regional autonomy is not a magic wand. Like once you just wave this one like this, everything's. There was regional autonomy when this happened. It's human nature. We need that autonomy, by the way. I agree with you. But what I'm talking about is not even about the autonomy. It's about that thing that can just say, Eja Farawa, Ekili Shuluri, Eka Gbarukuti. Kí ni mo lè ṣe tó yẹ kí nǹkan tó ń ṣe kó dáa tó bá ní nǹkan tí wàá fi kún nǹkan tó ń ṣe má fòlè ṣe kankan ṣáà fi wọ́n lẹ̀ ìbú wàá máa gbìyànjú àti máa dì wọ́n lẹ́sẹ̀ just to prove a point that makes no sense. By the way, I've not mentioned anybody, but you know exactly what I'm saying, and I hope we get the message. We have to do better as Yoruba people. Thank you very much for understanding. Now let's go back to the reading. Thanks a lot. We have. I have about 3 books I was supposed to do in this part too, because there are other books for next part. Wherever we stop, we'll continue from there. What have we learned so far? We've learned that while it is true that Action Group sent people to Ghana, they did not send people to Ghana to go and plan to overthrow any government. What they were doing in Ghana was what NEPU was doing in Eastern Europe with the Cameroonian party. And the idea basically was that every region had, like NEPU had to do it. You have to understand that NEPU having, what do they call that thing, PAW, NEPU having positive action wing because of the activities of NPC, their own thugs, tells you exactly how politics worked back then. You have to protect your space. And if you ask me, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what I did. All right, thank you very much for listening to that. I won trial while I was trying for reason. There's another part of the series that we're going to upload this weekend, which is what we discussed yesterday, and I won trial, how it all began, and we'll get deeper into that on Monday as well. I mean, live session. I've learned one or two things. I think in many cases, right, when it comes to Nigerian history, people often pick extreme sides. Okay, so one person goes something like, I will, organize the coup and it was tried for treason and it was treason and things like that. Then the other group is, he never did anything that had to do with, Action Group was a party of, those intellects. Those who were in the party, we had the opportunity to listen to them. Over time, every political party had to have people to help guard whatever it is they were doing, especially their spaces. It's just like what you have right now with polling agents. you want to have elections that work, you could go around like some people and just say, oh, structures don't matter. I don't need to have any polling agents, just, say your idealistic, nice sounding stuff. But the reality is that you've got to have people there so that they don't, shortchange you essentially. It's the same thing back then. Every political party had to have this strong-faced humans who would guard their ballots and their spaces and things like that. I think the crazy part really is that it's usually difficult for people to find that middle ground where you can acknowledge the reality, but you can also go against those who want to use that reality as the basis of a lie. I often say that propaganda requires a modicum of truth. There has to be something true that you cannot your lies on it. All right. And the truth is that yes, the party had thoughts really cool. I didn't mention this in the video we just listened to. Documents on Monday to be able to explain what I just said right now. And I keep wondering why. Why did it take 31 years for him to come up with whatever he considered to be true? The beautiful thing I just noticed about it is the fact that those who were also in action group at the same time with him also spoke up and wrote books. And in this video you just listened to, we read a book by Ebenezer Obafemi, Our Great Life Battles, and we also read the book by Obafemi, Awolowo and the Forgotten Documents of the Nigerian Civil War. There are more books we're going to read on Monday, but let's just have an open heart, understand what happened, but also don't allow people to use like a little bit of truth, mixed with a lot of nonsense and propaganda, and then say this is what it is and you must accept it. No, don't let them do that to you. Fola says, I want to. Yes, but the truth is, if I had the opportunity to go back in time, if let's say there was a time machine now, and I could go back in time, I would. You know what? Let's just leave it alone. Let's just leave it alone. It's just a sad, But I think the thing for us is there's no need to go back in time. It's just to ask that based on what we've learned, what would we do if we're in their shoes, number one, and number two, what's happening in Nigerian politics right now, what's the best thing to do, knowing what we know now. You see? Because at the end of the day, it is I'm roju or something. Okay, the thing is having ideas. And to be honest, if you ask me, who would I condemn? It would be Akintola, despite the fact that I acknowledge some of the merits of his argument, and I've said it several times. I acknowledge the merits of his argument. It was being realistic, right? Let's get in there and make things happen. Let's work with the North. Let's get into alliance with these folks at the center so that Yoruba people can also take advantage of the opportunities the government had at the time. He was realistic and it made a lot of sense, but I will still blame him. The same way I will blame Sim Fubara today, regardless of what you can say about Wetie. And that's not to say Wetie doesn't have excesses or Awolowo was a saint. It's just that there's something about structure and order. If you think you have if you have bright ideas like you claim, start your own party and build your structure and get to that place on your own. Then come and show us what you want to do. That's how life works. You can't climb on people's shoulders, use their ladders, get to the top, kick the ladders off, and tell them you have a new ladder based on what they have given to you, and expect them not to do something about it. That's a joke. But you see, as far as his ideas were concerned, I think they made sense. I mean, it's like telling me about Visionscape of Ambode. Of course, it makes sense. But who did I support? I supported GAC and the party APC. Even though I liked Ambode and what he was saying, there's a structure. Once you get in the habit of, becoming disorderly, you are inviting dysfunction. There'll be chaos very soon. So that bright idea you have, somebody else will come and have a quote-unquote brighter idea. Before you know, there is no structure. There is no Oga. Everybody is Oga. Everybody is now a king. Everybody has ideas. What you are doing may be good, but in the long run, you are creating a system where there is no order. Instead of plugging in to fix things, and sometimes you may have a very fantastic idea and you still have to wait. And sometimes you might even wait and still not get that idea, used by others. It's the reality of life. It's the same thing I said about what Papa did in the North in 1959. What Awo did in the North was good, but the timing was wrong. It was the best idea. As a matter of fact, that's actually it is the best idea, to be honest, right? That's how you actually get into enemy territory. But seeing the configuration of Nigeria and the timing that we're discussing, Papa could have waited for a while, because the truth is, you may have great ideas and the timing is not just yet right. Sometimes you have ideas you want to get it right. And by the way, this is not just about politics. It's also in our personal lives. Sometimes you have ideas you want to get it done right now. Sometimes you have to wait. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you've seen this movie by what's his name now? Jackson. Cameron. You wrote the script of this movie. Why am I forgetting this basic stuff? What's this last movie that is very big? Oh dear. Oh boy. It's quite. Oh, I can't. Thank you, Yemo. Thank you. It is well. Oh. I think in the 80s or so, he had to wait for the technology to catch up. It took him about 20 years, right? Maybe 80s or 90s, thereabout. It took him about 20 years in order to make the movie. It's not because the movie was not good when he wrote it. It is that the technology to make it happen was not in existence. He had to wait. And this happens even in corporate organizations when everybody has ideas, or in church, or in politics, or if you are not the Oga, and even if you are Oga like James Cameron, regardless of the fact that you are Oga, you don't have the technology yet, so you're going to have to chill. It's the same thing with the conversation we're having right now about electoral reform, and people are getting angry and just shouting and saying we must have real-time transmission. People just talk. Can you do it? I mean, what you're saying is not a bad idea. Two things. Number one, who does this thing in the world? The answer is nobody. Nobody. Okay, maybe you can actually be the first person. I mean, why not, why not build the cat? So do you have what it takes to do it now? You don't. Then you chill. You build the tech that allows you to accomplish your goals. Not to say if you don't do what I'm saying right now, like Nigeria, you're a terrible person, you're after my life, all those funny things they say on social media. So generally speaking, we learn from these people, from our elders, and say, okay, you know what, these are great things they did, these are other things they did. So this is what we can learn from them. Also, actually, sometimes you have to mark time, even though you have great ideas, you still have to chill. And if you're Christian, you understand what they call the wilderness experience. The wilderness experience can be, you're not having the time for training and all of those things. It's part of it. And that's why I said that. I'll just explain everything I said earlier, that if I were to go back in, I would say, Baba, you have ideas, they are very great. These are wonderful things. But there has to be order. But if you can't wait, let's say your ideas can't wait, like you just know that you've got to do something right now because everybody is dulling you. Okay, so this is what you do. And it's like this thing also affects our personal lives beyond politics. From action group to form anything else, you go your way. You create your own stuff. It's like leaving a company. You're not going to leave the company and be poaching. You go your own way, build your own stuff, then show these people that, guess what, this is how to do things. And I have an example in history. Steve Jobs. You do some things to him. Maybe we should even have a session on these things. You do some things to him in Apple. You force him out. He steps away. He creates next. He built something to the point where when you discover that you couldn't anymore, you had to go and look for him. He comes back to rescue Apple, having done well in Pixar. Next. But this whole thing of we'll break this one, I'll not take part of them to go is the will of the devil. Bible, I'm a Christian, by the way, so I use a lot of Bible, and I'm a minister. Bible talks about how Satan took a third of the stars in heaven to create his own, I don't know if I should call them army or his own crew. In other words, he saw what was happening in heaven. He convinced a third of the angels, and then that thing is demonic. Where you have to break an existing thing, destroy what they're doing in order to go and start your own, and now say, I have ideas. And I look through history, I'm not sure I can find anyone, especially in Nigerian history, that did that thing and succeeded and even thrived. Because what you did is a seed that will germinate. When you break something to start something, in other words, you destroy an existing organization, a church, a business, whatever, in order to start your own stuff. What you are starting, the seed of destruction is already in what you're starting. People are looking at you, your own members are looking at you. When the time comes, they will also break your own and use it to start something else. In Yoruba's case, they didn't just even break NNDP. It went into. I don't think people even appreciate what really happened to NNDP and Akintola after 1963. I was reading an article earlier today. Someone saying we have to, like saying they're whitewashing Akintola, and I said this is actually nonsense. SLA was a great man. SLA made mistakes. You don't have to explain the mistakes away. Just acknowledge what he did, but also acknowledge his greatness. That's how to discuss people like that. Not to say, it wasn't bad. They just misunderstood him. Nobody misunderstood him. Okay? The things he did are still there in history. Awolowo was a great man. Awolowo also made mistakes. Okay? But this idea that in order to make people feel, let's just whitewash. Like I was reading something that somebody wrote. I don't want to mention the author. Talking about how SLA was one that moved the motion for independence. I was like, not true. And I already did it in 53 to make somebody look good. All I'm saying is this. After that episode, right, and I will go into prison, SLA became a persona non grata in the Western region. Everything, of course, came to a head in 65, and of course, you know what happened in 66. He dies, and that was it. Here's my question to us as we end today. Where's the legacy? Where's Balewa's legacy? Where's Adauna's legacy? Where's Azikiwe's legacy? Where's Akintola's legacy? Where's Awolowo's legacy? You know, you reach to a point and you begin to ask yourself, when you leave, and hopefully we're going to be here for a very long time by the grace of God. But while you're alive and when you eventually depart, how are you going to be remembered? Like, what exactly people say you did? What's the legacy? Think about all these people I just mentioned right now and mention 5 things from Balewa, from Azikiwe, from Sardauna, Ahmadu Bello, from Akintola, and from Awo, and look at their lives, and this many years after they've gone, Killer Larry song. I think it's a lesson for all of us, really. It's a lesson for all of us. So, all of that to say that I hope we learned something from all of this. And the idea is Awo was tried, and of course the title is Why Awolowo was tried for treason. Awolowo was not tried for treason because he actually committed any treasonable offense. All right, by the way, was jailed for treasonable felony, not exactly for treason. But we'll talk about that next week. Was treasonable felony. Anyway, the point is the whole charade or sham of a trial happened because of something he did in 59, which was the fact that for the first time the North saw folks from the South essentially, well, in the words of Ahmadu Bello, invading the North, right, with the kind of campaigns action group actually embarked on in 1959, and that was actually the seed for the Wala that happened. And the idea was we're going to break it down. And Akintola was the first person in my research, and if you research and you find other, maybe you find earlier mentions of it, please let me know. It was February 1962. It was actually January. Okay, and then it was mentioned in February that Akintola had said for that. That's after the Coca trial and all of those things. You know, and of course we said that as Yoruba people we should be careful, you know, before get think about Shenkan, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Why about shaking me o ṣe bóyá mo ti wo sa kun nǹkan tó ń ṣe pé bí tó ń bá kí n lọ ọ̀nà kọ́lélé mi ò ṣe nìyẹn yín ò túmọ̀ sí wípé màá gba aago màá bọ́ sórí ẹ̀rọ ayélujára màá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sọ pé kí ni kan báyìí wọ́n ṣe pàápàá tẹ́ pé nǹkan tó ń ṣe ń ṣe nǹkan tó burú. There are things that people do. Those things are not necessarily bad. You just don't flow with that thing. Or you know that what they're doing, that's not the way. But they're not hurting anybody. Or if they're going to hurt anybody, there's a way you can. In cases like that, you don't have to go against them. Just let them do what they're doing. You go and start your own stuff. And do the better way, the better version of whatever you think they're doing, do it. But the idea that our conscience, especially when they're not hurting you or hurting anybody, you just don't like their style. And they now start a ministry or organization based on their faults. See what they're doing, see what they're doing, see what they're doing. You're not building anything. You only should be looking for the fault of others. That's not how to build. And some people like it, they don't build. Their job is to criticize other people. I don't think that's how to actually live. As you people, we cannot afford it. I put this thing out some days ago. Do this thing. It's not just Yoruba people. And I said, of course, it's not just. It's not to say that because it's human, it's okay. The point is that we as Yoruba people cannot afford it. Not that we're the only ones. Of course, we're not the only ones. Human beings do it, but we can't afford it. Based on what we've learned from history, and I hope that this actually helps us to build a better society for ourselves and our children. And may those who have gone ahead of us look back and smile on us and say, look at these people, look at these children, because no matter how old we get, they will be fathers. Look at these children. Oh, they've learned from our mistakes. Oh, they're building things. Oh, see the vision I had. I always say, see the vision I had. These guys are actually doing it now. That's the beauty of history. CEO says, what's the role of Mrs. Akintola in all this? Ha! Say that she didn't like the idea of her husband being under the shadow of somebody who used to be the premier of the region. I hope that's a good answer. And I read a number of books. I think it was Fadirera. She was tough. Kolon Shanoa. I think it was Fadirera, and from everything we've read, she was tough. She felt that since the man was premier, our calling him several times, and senators talking about it, is actually micromanagement. Now you see this in many books. The book by Femi Kende on SLA, the one by Kyoshun Tokun, he briefly mentioned, but Femi Kende actually went deep into it. Even I will mention it in his book, Tribes of Democracy and Rule of Power, that when even after they sorted out the issue in February of '62, they were supposed to go to Akintola's house. So they were supposed to go to Awolowo's house, but I chose to go to Akintola's house first. But they had, just greet them. Excuse me, before going to Awolowo's house in Okado. And he said the woman did not greet him, and the daughter did not greet him either. But he ordered the daughter to greet him. It in the video. Papa was. It's important to even say this. I should say it this way. Papa was leader of the party before he was premier of the region. It's important to actually say it this way. Papa was leader of the party before he became premier of the region. After he stopped being premier of the region, he was still the leader of the party. So they will still have that, he will still have that authority over the party he formed that gave it the opportunity to become the premier of the region. So you can't call it micromanagement. It's like saying, and I mentioned it just like now, Sim Fubara has great ideas. Everybody has great ideas. You did not get there by yourself. Use the party machinery. So you can't say that, why are they holding him? Why are they micromanaging him? And if they're micromanaging, that's another thing entirely. But when you start making certain decisions, right, without carrying your party along, imagine, for instance, making decisions that had to do with the Ministry of Agriculture without the Minister of Agriculture, that's Chief Akindeko, knowing about it. But to answer your question, I think she was just that person who felt, that's what I deduced from all I've read about her. And this is, well, at the end of the day, the box stops at the table of the leader. It is well. Are you sure about that, Fola? Are you sure? I'm not sure, but I don't. I don't know. I know it was a place, but I don't think it was IG. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was IG. And yes, you say if not for Wiki, nobody knew Fubara. Yes, no. Yes. It doesn't mean Fubara is a bad person. I'm very sure he has great ideas and thoughts for his people. But Cherry, think about it, forget wàhálà ló máa ń dà. Wàhálà ni. Mo ti dé bí báyìí sí àti tòjé bolo ṣàlọ́wọ́ ó wá kó bàbá ẹni tí ó bọ̀. A máa gùn ẹ́. Okay, èmi náà tó yìí. Ìṣubú ń bọ̀ o. Kọ́lọ́n ṣàánú wa, ọlọ́mọdé àṣubú. And if you're a spouse or somebody who is like the cutting edge, please, you should be the one like counterbalancing, because sometimes you're worrying. So you need somebody, if talking about blessing, if talking about booking, you need somebody who can say, do it this way, don't so ló gan fẹ́ o àkókò jẹ́ kí ẹ kọ́ pé kí ẹ gan lọ́wọ́ kó gùn ẹ̀ tí ẹ bọ̀ nù. All right. So, by the way, my that's about a thing coming up. I think I should start, introducing it first, if a dialect. But no, I'm Ibadan comes more man pop. All right. Is that what I think I saw another question earlier. I am Jai says she was Rusida. Oh girl. CEO says I suspect there must have been some bedroom influence. Historians actually agree that there was bedroom influence. There was even the issue. So if you read Awolowo's book, I think it goes deeper into it. For instance, to events, party events, and everybody will be shouting, "Awo, Awo, Awo." Awolowo tried to say that was the party's way of talking about, himself and the party, but we know it was actually about Awo, not about AG. So after SLA became the premier, they'll go for party events, like when they went for the installation of the Awujale, the Obafemi like everybody was shouting, "Awo, Awo, Awo," and the premier was there. And then sometimes they would also say SLA, what mostly was Awo, Awo. And so there was a conversation between Awo's driver and SLA's driver. Awo's driver. I hope you angel. But then like they're saying that why they're not talking about Baba after all only premier and saying you find, by the way, I'm not just making this up, but you find it in Adventures in Power Book 2. Is it Book 2? Yes, Book 2.
And there are other things as well. There are also the issue between,
and there are other things as well. There was also the issue between herself and Mama HID and things like that. Oloyi says the late Ojale really ruled for long. He only died last year. Yes, Baba got there 1960. Right? Yes. Yes. Baba got there in 1960. Ms. Fola says, but Awolowo was an Ijebu woman at Awujale. Ijebu coronation, it was natural. So the funny thing is, I wasn't even just Ijebu. Anywhere he went, everybody was shouting Awo. But yes, at Ijebu. Another thing that SLA said at that coronation was that, it was made to stay there for a long time. How can the premier be waiting for everybody? All those things are in the book. But the truth is, I think it was more ego than anything else. It was more ego. I mean, there was a part of ideology. They fought for ideology on different ideologies, which is also admirable because it's a lot better than what we have in Nigeria today, where everybody just does whatever they want for power. So yes, they fought based on ideological differences, but I think it was more ego than anything else, and it's just a shame that we lost what could have been because of ego. All right. Someone says here, do you think Nigeria would have taken a different course if there was no rift between Awo and Akintola? No, I don't think so. I know so. I don't think Nigeria would have taken a different course if there was no rift between Awo and Akintola. I know that Nigeria would have taken a different course if there was no rift between Awo and Akintola. Now, we're not the reason for the problem of Nigeria, but I'm saying our problem also contributed to whatever happened to Nigeria in the long run. And not because we caused anything, but because, like I said in the video, we were and we still are, for the most part, the ones to look up to. Now, when God places you there, I mean, the British put the North there, but God and nature, right, put Yoruba there. And this is not, we're not boasting or anything. It's not like, hey, we're better than anybody. That's not the point. The point is that once you occupy that space, you become a pace setter. And when people look up, replicate what you're doing, right? Whether it's a stadium or it's buildings or it's the idea of estates. I mean, Yoruba people don't know that the first estate in this country, and maybe even in, I think, was it West Africa or Africa? Gonself, I'm going to have to check. I think it was Africa. The first estate was Bodija in Ibadan. Not the GRA that Oyinbo built. Oyinbo had GRA in Onireke. I think they also had in Jericho in Ibadan. They had in Ikoyi. But the one that we ourselves, we built, Bodija was the first one. Who did it? Awo and his people, AG in the Western region. So you have this estate, you have this, towers, you have this stadium, you have a TV station before many countries in Europe. You already placed on this pedestal where people just look up to you. So when you start fighting, the real issue is that you have nothing else to present for people to copy. That's the issue, and that's why I think we messed up. But I think we're better now, to be honest. I mean, even now, think about it. And I said this in the video, and say, remove Lagos, VAT annual VAT, even quarterly VAT in Nigeria. The Western region actually contributes more than any other group, any other region in this country. And when they say remove Lagos, or your state contributed, can look up to. And I think, that affected Nigeria. So that's what I believe to be true, knowing what we know and what we've also, I'm sure all of us know these things now since we've read it together. That Bajaja or Tumbani Ikonsinubo Ningba, Kubama. It's not like he won't make any mistake. It was a human, he would make mistakes, but it would have been easier. And if you want to know how this would have worked out, please read the book by this man. Which book? From Third World to First World. That's Lee Kuan Yew. Imagine, and how was Nigeria's Lee Kuan Yew, by the way? By a very, he's incomparable to his peers. That's the fact. And of course, the Yoruba Lee Kuan Yew. So imagine that, and the more you study Singapore, the more you discover that, there were other people that were lifting his hands. Like, Aaron and Hur lifted the hands of Moses. If you know that Bible stuff, you get what I'm saying. There are people that were working in education, in town planning, in agriculture, in different areas. He had his right-hand man. That's the Kuan Yew. And Awo actually did as well. Ikulo Bolaje. Awo's right hand man originally was not SLA. It was what they thought, but he died. I think his death also contributed. I mean, these things are just funny. His death also contributed to it. But to be fair, let me also say this so that we balance these things. SLA, interestingly, actually had huge respect for Awo until he became premier. That was when it was like, oh God, I have my own plans. Okay, don't share it. I should enjoy it. I wasn't saying, call on Shano. But hopefully, we also do better in our own generation. Let's read some things in the comment section as well. So I hope I answered the question, CEO. Again, that's what I know to be true. If we didn't have the rift, I think we would have done well, would have created a Singapore in Malaysia. If not in Nigeria, this is what I think would have happened. Would have created a Singapore in Western Nigeria. Others would have been forced to develop and eventually would have had something better. Now, I know that what I just said now is very simplistic because it's simple, but I'm just saying that if you are based on, so everything we did, people copied. So if we kept doing things, most likely they would have copied and they would have grown. All things being equal, ceteris paribus. Oloy says, but people from Awolowo's hometown now claim Remo. Wonder what changed. No, okay, so, oh boy. All right, and we apologize. Light power issues. Oh boy, it was a tug of war, but I'm glad we're here. All right, let me quickly answer that one. So, Ijebu Remo was under the sovereignty of Awujale, but they were a different group. As of 1936 thereabout, there was that what you say that these people are doing right now. Kinshasa is in Lobere. It actually started in the 19th century, in the 1860s. That's when it began to say, okay, you know what, Shagam is going to be the capital of the Remo people, you know, and so this is what we want to be very clear about the fact that we are also a sub group of Yoruba people. That's why you hear them being called Ijebu Remo, not just Ijebu. They'll say Ijebu Remo, but it's different from Ijebu. And one of the reasons Obafemi eventually came to one of the reasons he lost the election in 1937 was that he signed with Ijebu, right, to hold on to that nomenclature rather than to separate the Remo people from them. So whatever you see people doing Ijebu Remo, you can't just call those ones Ijebu without adding Remo anyway. I think what they is their Caribou, so they're no longer under the sovereignty of the Awujale, and that's not recent, to be honest. It's been like that, but they're very close, right? Even the dialect is just about the same thing. You know, I just make it very short. I hope we got. Thank you, Lucy. Absolutely, still loved, will always be loved. Fola says the West lost 60 years of progress because of Awolowo Akintola's crisis. I think the crazy part though is that by the time everything Sawo was in prison, they were in power and they had that power for 3 years. And that was the end. Awo came out of prison and he did. I was reading his letter of resignation, was it yesterday, when he was leaving Gowon's government and Gowon's response as well. Quite emotional. At least he had the chance to keep building. It's just that we know him more for what he did before 1960 than for what he did between 67 and 71. Sorry, between 67 and 71. And I think we should talk a lot about what he did between 67 and 71 as well, because he did fantastically well. And for some reason, we don't usually focus on it. But it's true that, we lost a lot of years because of the crisis. And hopefully, we'll remember what Pastor Tunde Bakare said last year, that we'll not have another Awolowo Akintola crisis again in Yoruba land, where people say, "Me no idea, to ba la idea, she tie, ma ba tie, and ton she tie, ma ba je, no ba that tie she." And the funny thing, you might actually trump this new one, and you might trump the old one. And I'll give you a very simple example before we go on. 1999, we had 6 governors in the Western region, right? And all of them were Alliance for Democracy, AD. By 2003, Obasanjo had done his fantastic work by telling all of us that we should vote. I can't forget that election. That we should vote for PDP as president. But our AD governors told us that if we vote for PDP as president, we should make the governors AD. Anyhow, somehow, all the governors became PDP except one. That was Lagos. President Tinubu, now President Tinubu. Then, of course, he created AC from the ashes of what was left. And then he built something to the point where everyone, just about everyone who used to be in AD is actually now in ACN or in APC. Many of them actually joined him in AC or later in ACN. People like Karemo, Olusegun Oshoba, people like Baba Bisi Akonde. These were stalwarts in AD. In fact, some of them were stalwarts. In fact, both people I just mentioned now. And that's why I say it may take a while. I think we also have to be patient sometimes. Not say, I have an idea what happen now. Sometimes you have to wait another 20 years. People don't like to hear things like that because it doesn't sound like aspire to refire to perspire to Maguire. But it's reality. All right. CEO Coded says, ultimately, if Awo had chosen a different premier, Nigeria would have taken a different course, perhaps no coup.
Let's say it this way. If Awo had chosen a different
let's say it this way. If Awo had chosen a different premier, the Western region would have done so well. Would that stop a coup? I don't know. Because the people who planned that coup started planning the coup long before Nigeria even gained an. Well, let me not say plan the coup. They started planning how to control the entire country long before long before Nigeria gained independence. So the Igbos started planning in 1944. Would that? So, and I'm saying this because I also don't want to sound like the rift between Awo and Akintola was the reason for the coup. And I know that a lot of historians have made it seem that way. A lot of people have written that, because of the crisis in the Western region. It's not the truth. It was a catalyst, but was not the cause. And some people, especially from the East, make it look as if that was the cause. They forget that before 65, there was 64 constitutional crisis between Azikiwe and Baliwa, where Azikiwe himself and Ojukwu had planned a coup. Before 64 was 63, where there was census crisis, where the Eastern Premier, Michael Okpara, had threatened secession. Before 63, there was 62, where they had the first census crisis. So anything could have made them want to usurp authority and have a mutiny or a coup. But I would say that if Awo had chosen a different prime minister like he wanted to, Kolon Shanuwa. If Awolowo had chosen a different premier, He wanted to choose either F.R.A. Williams. I mean, he had three options: F.R.A. Williams, Anthony Nauro, or Akindeko.
Even if they were fighting,
Those are the people he wanted to put there. If he had chosen one of them, even if they were fighting to kill themselves, Yoruba would have been a lot better, regardless. But I mean, hindsight is 2020, isn't it? We don't know exactly what would have happened, but I think clearly we would not have had the kind of problems that we have in West. Akitala was already in the parliament. He was already a member of cabinet. He was a minister with Balewa. A lot of people don't even remember this. Akitala was already at the federal level before he had to return to become premier. So they should have just left him there. But he wanted to be premier, by the way. He wanted to be a premier more than Awolowo wanted him to be premier. And that's what history book confirmed. History book confirmed. You know, they should have left him there, working with Balewa, you know, having access to central power and everything. I think it would have suited him a lot better. You know, but again, like I always say, hindsight is 2020. Okay, we'll read a few more things here. Dr. Badru says, okay, I've read that one. Oloye says, Alhaji Esadegbenro was his choice, or so I read. He would have loved Adegbenro as well, but Adegbenro eventually became the premier after they removed Akintola, because they removed Akintola eventually. It was actually the removal of Akintola that led to the crisis in the parliament. You know, that we read yesterday when they started throwing. We didn't even read how Adegbenro became premier. But you find that if you want to read it, I recommend a book. I've mentioned it already. Adventures in Power Book 2 by Papa Awolowo. The Traverse of Democracy and the Rule of Law. He mentioned how that happened. So if you're interested, or maybe Adegbenro became. So Adegbenro actually stepped. Good choice. Originally, as at 1959, Howell's choice, he had three options: F.R.A. Williams, Anthony Nauro, and Akindeko. But by 1962, when they removed SLA, they brought in Alhaji Adegbenro. Sheyewe says Anthony Nauro is from Midwest. Well, at the time there was no Midwest, remember? At the time there was no Midwest. But yeah, if you go into the future, of course, it will be Midwest. He's an Uromi man. Anthony Nauro was from Uromi. So yeah, it wasn't a Yoruba man. But Awo didn't mind having him. That's the kind of person Awo was, you know. The kind of person he was. And you know, when they were trying to have their own region, Midwest, I think we've talked about it here before, when it was time to make a case for the Midwest region. Unlike other regions, it was only the Western region that had three people making the case for a new region. The folks who wanted the region themselves as the Midwest, the Western region itself, where the region wanted to split away from, they also were okay with it. And then you had the action group, the party. In the North, it did not happen. The Middle Belt didn't get anybody to support them. The North was against them. In the East, the COR did not get anybody to support them. The Eastern establishment the Igbo establishment was against them. Just like the Hausa Fulani establishment was against, the Middle Belt. It's just so funny that it's the region that is more liberal with everything, that certain clowns come up and just try to say nonsense. Also say, I will see you Western region. You guys are this. Like, if not for what has happened, if not for anyway, but yeah, that's how that went down. But Anthony Nauro was a great man, and he worked with Papa. He was also sent to prison, by the way. Himself, Latif Jakonde, Omisha Day, a number of them, and of course Awo himself. They were all sent to prison, and that's history now. Good to have loyal men. Loyal men. Loyal men. Not autonomous. Anthony, ẹ kí wọn ṣe bíi báwọn Yorùbá ṣe máa ń sọ náà ẹyẹ lókè ń bó nílé jẹ kó bó nílé mu kó jọjọ kókó yẹrí irú àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ tẹ kí wọn wáyé nìyẹn àbí àwọn ọmọlẹ́yìn tẹ kí wọn wáyé nìyẹn kì í ṣe àtọ́ pé tí ó bá ti igi bá ti dábàá ẹyẹ fún dànù ni. It is well. Thank you very much for listening to this session. I hope you had a great time. We'll be here again on Monday. We're going to continue with the series. We're looking at something different. There are 2 books I think we're going to be introducing next week. I mean, we'll continue with one. We'll introduce a new one. The first one will, of course, be the one we read yesterday, the political philosophy of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. I have to slow down. The Political Philosophy of Chief Obafemi Awolowo by Olayiwola Beguri. And then we'll read hopefully we'll start reading our own book itself. It's titled Treason. I think it's a brilliant book. We're going to learn a lot from these people. And may God bless you. And may you do better in our generation. And we'll be part of the solution to the problems that we talk about or that we see. May God bless Nigeria. God. All right. Thank you very much, and if you like, just the account details later. You know what? I just know. We do this every weekday, Mondays to Fridays, time. Sorry, Mondays to Fridays, 4 p.m. time, West African time. So we're going to be here again on Monday, and I'm sure we're going to have. I hope you had a great time today, by the way. Okay. We're going to have a greater time, so to speak. All right, if you'd like to support what we're doing, we're going to paste the account details. We usually bring it up at the end of our sessions. It's a GT account. Kindly use it to, you can transfer whatever it is we're doing. So I'm sure you know that. And I want to thank those who are always supporting what we're doing. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Every gift you gave, thank you, Share West, for the roses on TikTok. Thank you for the gifts. Your gifts also help a lot. So thank you. May God bless you. Thanks for your generosity. All right. Sorry, something on YouTube. Wetie Kubo. I like how you're doing your own today. You are on both. Thank you, Ma. Says, can people like Gbadebo be made to see reason and not frustrate Southwest interest? So people like Gbadebo will always exist, but I think the beauty from what I've seen is a student of history. I think what people like that, what they do to people like that is that you make them let me say this, and thank you for bringing up what you said, but I think I should say something. You cannot even compare Gbadebo to SLA. I lie.
His heads and shoulders of people like Gbadebo.
SLA is heads and shoulders of people like Gbadebo. SLA was rooted and grounded in his Yorubaness. He made no apologies for it. Right? SLA will say that it is. I mean, you know what? Maybe I should play. Okay, we're going to introduce something starting next week. We're playing clips from some of our elders. I have some I've already curated. I was waiting for next week before we begin. So we're beginning on Tuesday. Is it? I think it's on Tuesday. Yeah, we're going to start on Tuesday. We're going to start with SLA. Because I think it's also important that and if you notice, that's what I try to do. I mentioned when I'm talking about SLA because it's a very, very, his legacy in Yoruba land is muddled, and he did it by himself. But we still have to be careful not to throw the baby away with the bathwater. So I think on Tuesday, we're going to start with SLA. We're going to listen to his speech, and then I'll bring people up, and then I want you to judge if what he said in the 1960s don't sound like what's happening right now in 2026. So we're going to do that. But to be honest, SLA, for all his faults, would turn in his grave if he was ever compared to Gbadebo. Gbadebo is ashamed of his Yorubaness. Gbadebo wants to open the place for others. And there were Gbadebos like that, and SLA was against them in those days. He spoke against them. Many of them were in NCNC. And even succeeded in getting some of them out of NCNC, right? And by telling them the danger of working with NCNC at the time, because NCNC had been Igbolized, just like LP was Igbolized. But Gbadebo had no problem with that. Someone says, I noticed that Gbadebo's rhetoric is anti-Awo in nature. Yes, Gbadebo sounds like certain people who I will not mention who were in NCNC back in the 60s. That's why whenever Gbadebo, and I don't know who mentored him, his choice of words, his phrases, when he says something like Ajeji Godogbo, the words he uses, yes, Sheye West. Although some of them eventually turned after I went to prison, some of them began to massively support. It was right, by the way, if you're not seeing it, Sheye West wrote Island People, yes. But many of them also flipped after Awolowo went to prison. The election on Shele in prison, Awolowo won many seats in Lagos. But you see, the messaging, this is the funny thing I say I like about history. When you look at, maybe one day we should do it, maybe before the election. I'm going to read some things from some people in NCNC in the 60s, and then we'll compare it with the things that GRV was saying in 2022, 2023, and now. It's about the same thing. It's more like trying to prove something to others and say, let's open this place up. There's no commitment to the core of Awanto Ambe. It's more like let's have this laissez-faire thing where everybody can have access. Let's be inclusive. And people that talk like that think that they're actually making sense. They are not. That's not the point. I mean, when Awolowo had protecting the interests of your people does not mean you are shutting out outsiders. That's not the point. I mean, when Awolowo had free education in Western region, it was not like if you were Igbo from the East, you couldn't access it. You accessed it. If you wanted it, you got it. But you have to do it for your people. Not that you are pandering. In other words, you are coming up with stuff because you're trying to prove to people that we are one Nigeria. That's nonsense. I'm doing stuff for my people. If you're amongst us, you can also enjoy it. They will something like that. You get. Mark says, I want your Benson. Yes. Benson was shown pepper, then now he treated. He had an evil wife, even with that, they still found a way to in his own hometown of Ikuru, he was in there to run for an election. If not for, that's why when people do all this, we are all one Nigeria, I'm like, you don't get it. You can't say that in the north. You can't say that in the east. What makes you think that Western Nigeria, Yoruba land, is a laboratory for all these ridiculous experiments? What you should do as Yoruba people is love people, give them access. But you've got to also have that sense of self-preservation where you don't want to lose your space. I don't want your ideas, especially when your ideas are actually inferior compared to mine. That's the worst thing, by the way, guys. When you compare these guys who are saying we want to have space, you want to have want to be able to get into your space and hold offices, ask them for ideas. They are weak ideas.
Ask them to speak.
So you're doing inclusivity. Speak.
Trying to learn some things.
They talk like even when I was in school, when I was younger, when we're just trying to learn some things, we even, I mean, we had read Tribune newspapers. We're not sounding like this. What you want go out to buy? Wọ́n ní nǹkan kan tó fẹ́ fún yín. Wọ́n kàn fẹ́ wọ àárín yín. Wọ́n ṣàwọ̀ ọbẹ̀ wọ́n ti gbàgbára. Tó bá ti wá gbà tán, ó máa yà yín lẹ́nu. Wọ́n á kó àwọn èèyàn wọn síbẹ̀. If you say I'm being tribalistic, that is your problem. I have no duty to folks outside my space before my people. It makes no sense now. It's the duty to your people, and then you are also, magnanimous enough to allow others to benefit from it. That's how sensible people. By the way, especially when they have nothing better than what you have at home. Saying, and to my dash of if what you want to give me something, I check out where you occupy anywhere in my space. Okay, let's discuss ideas. You are talking, I'm like, I've been kill on so.
The only thing they'll be telling you is how Nigeria cannot work.
And the funny thing is, let them tell you ask them for ideas. The only thing they'll be telling you is how Nigeria cannot work unless they are there. How will you make it happen? Unity. As if unity is a magic wand.
In their own corner of the world, of the country, are the one teaching you
in their own ethnicity. In their own corner of the world, of the country, are the one teaching you about unity. But we get carried away because it's usually emotional driven. Are you not allowing us? Why do you now hate us? Okay, I'll be watching. All right. Dr. Badru says NAFDAC under Queen Lee was not an exception. I don't know, but I know that Queen Lee did a great job. She did well. But even then, the important thing is that let nobody can start the Yoruba people again. If you want to do your thing as Nigeria, do it. But in Yoruba land, and that's the funny thing. That's what they do at home too. They don't allow almost like tokenism, to be honest. And that's why when people say things like, "Oh, boy, in their place they do this," I'm like, do you not understand that you have exceptions, but the rule is that the place is guarded? The Southeast is actually the most guarded in this country. The North is more open than the South is in terms of whether it's in civil service, for instance. The North is more open than the South is. I mean, Southwest, of course, on a different level. But the ones who close up their spaces, not just to you and outsider, they close up their spaces to their own people from other states. Travel to Western region and lecture you about the importance of 7 rivers and 7 oceans. Travel to Western region and lecture you about the importance of inclusivity, in the sense that you've got to open your place up and let them take over the space. And if you don't do it, you're a travelist. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. So, Wetie Kobo says, can people like Gbadebo be made to see reason and not frustrate Southwest interest? I think some of them would, just like Akintola was able to get some NCNC people to see sense in, working for Yoruba people, not foremost, because that's what happened in other spaces in the North. By the way, we say no, but in the North, at least leadership, the middle, people from Midway that got jobs and everything, but the power, even if you were the one doing it, you know that the person that was holding the reins was behind the scene. They knew what they were doing. The same thing in the East. East is terrible. They frustrated the Southern Cameroonians. They had to break out of Nigeria.
The person who does the worst that lectures those who do
Well, the thing, the crazy part in Nigeria is that it's the person who does the worst that lectures those who do the best.
the best are easily guilt tripped.
And the real crazy thing, right, is that the ones who do the best are easily guilt tripped and gaslighted,
The blackmail of
right, until they now succumb to the rhetorics and, the blackmail of the ones who do the worst. Makes no sense. There's a video I watched today. I'm going to play it on Monday. We're going to respond to it together. Where people they just lie to you and tell you nonsense. And I know why you go to the place, because what are you looking for there? But we should have these conversations, and hopefully we'll all learn and get better. Wetie Kubo says it was the mentality that made Ojukwu expect FG to feed him. Oh yeah. Yeah. You're going to war with me and you are blackmailing me for not feeding your people. Are you dumb? You're going to war. We're not supposed to have a strategy for feeding your people. That's why I think I read it here, the interview that Frederick Forsyth had after Iran took Cote d'Ivoire. I was talking about the fact that he did not plan for feeding his people and things like that. I'm like,
you didn't think about that. You wanted
you did not.
don't fight.
You didn't think about that. You wanted a country. They said, don't fight. You say, I must fight. Okay, now fight. Now you are fighting. You are telling the people who you are fighting to feed your own people, and you are telling them that they are wrong for not feeding your people. What kind of entitlement? It is well. This country, I'm just really Dr. Badru says the Yorubas have never discussed the Igbos this way. They opened the can of worms, and they were pushed. No, they waited to 1948 of Igbo just prodding and just being funny. Then they started speaking up. Everybody was. Wait now, on Tuesday I'm going to play you that tape from Akintola. Artist Kiniri. I'm about to sorry. Adakeni. And why did you stop? I mean, the war. So you don't look like you allow some things. You allow some things slide. Not because you don't like the person is a joker, but because just like person has suffered. Let's just allow it. We'll be like, they allowed him to do this thing because of the situation. Just take it and win me, and that's it. But if you are not properly allowed to have, you now go the extra length of demanding more, to the point where 55 years down the line, you will now go get Koje away and now insult your benefactor. We just don't talk about it because if you do something, you do it. You don't have to now start saying, I did this for you. But if some don't, the other group tells their children that you never did anything for them. Instead of this, let me tell you something as a Yoruba person. If you tell me that some people did not do anything for us, I just be like, okay, that's okay. Kò sí ní agbára wọn láti ràn mí lọ́wọ́ ni àbí Ọlọ́run fi oore mi sí wọn lọ́wọ́. So it's okay if they didn't help at that time. God will do it for me because God is my source.
They not say, they are bad people.
But these ones, they say that Yoruba people did not do something for them. He said, like, how can they not say, they are bad people. All these Yoruba people, they went to work with the Northerners. They did this to us. I'm like, the people who actually helped you, I mean, even if they did not help you, why should their help matter? After all, they're not God. To God, you will supply. But in this case, they actually helped you, but you were raised to hate them. And the Yoruba, and this is what's painful to me, young Yoruba people will now be apologizing to clowns. I'm saying, we are sorry. Let me say something. Nigeria, Yoruba people particularly, all Igbos, no apologies for anything. And Nigeria does not owe Igbo apologies for the war or for anything. You owe Igbos compassion, respect, love, but no apologies. But not the reason for the issue. And that's another thing we should be talking about. Again, of course, I mentioned compassion, love, respect. That tells you that I'm not coming from a place of hate or saying, oh, they are bad people. That's not the point. But you cannot blackmail me into apologizing for what your fathers should never have gotten themselves into. It's nonsense. We'll talk about it on Monday, by the way. I remember the video now. We'll talk about it on Monday. I'll play that video so you understand the context. It's crazy. All right. So, but what you said about Ojukwu expecting FG to feed him, it's the same thing, right? And I think that because it was never been made to look into the mirror, they think they can get away with some things. And I think it's good that they've gotten away with it, but they should just evolve as human beings. I see the clown in the comment section. These are people whose fathers forgot to raise. They were left in the care of apes and monkeys. Because when you come into a conversation with sane people and your first thing you're writing is what you have written in the comment section, it tells me you were raised by animals. And you know who I'm talking to. Son gave birth to you, and how your mother and your father copulated to give birth to you. Say another thing. You will hear what you're supposed to hear tonight. Anyway, let's end on a good note, because sometimes we always have retards just find their way in and they always inject nonsense. These are people who were not raised to be responsible for anything. The family heirloom is victimhood. They've got to be the ones to be victims. And when they talk, they have no sense of gratitude. No sense of gratitude. It's always blackmailing you for what you should have done for them. Nobody owes anybody in this country. God is our supply. But even when you now see somebody who was magnanimous towards you and you still curse them out, and you're going to see that video next. In fact, you don't even have to see the video. You've seen it already around you. You can even see it in the comment section right now. That's a bunch of clowns. God bless. And every part of it. And you're right. We should also learn our lessons so that we don't allow Nigeria. Particularly with the next election. I'm voting Tinubu, by the way. Okay. Anybody that wants to transform over that they should make it very quick. I'm voting him, I mean, obvious reasons. He thinks structurally and he's doing well. I'm proud of what he's doing. So if you call this campaign, yes, I'm campaigning for him. I think he's the best president we've had so far, particularly in this republic. But if you ask me, from the very first republic, because I don't know anybody that comes close. I'm just saying. As far as presidents go, if you're talking about leaders, of course, I always head and shoulders over everybody. But as far as presidents go in this country, Obasanjo was fantastic, but I think Tinubu is doing fantastic work and he's thinking structurally. So let's vote for him. This is not the time to be saying that I have ideas. Any idea you have, go and give it to them, let them use it. If you don't, and if you want to start your own party and do something and criticize him and give us something, like give him a run for his money, please do. But don't come and be telling us that you didn't wear shoes in secondary school. I don't care. Oh, you have one one pair of shoes. You have one wristwatch since 1975. We don't care. You can't be telling us that you don't have shoe or you have one watch, but your wife is wearing millions of naira worth of jewelry on the dance floor. Don't come and bring it to us in 2027. No. But yes, we'll start talking about some of these things early enough, so we don't have cracks in our wall in the coming election. Thank you very much for the 117 likes on TikTok. Thank you also, everyone, for your support. Thank you for God bless you. Before we go, we're going to listen to our anthems and then we'll call it a day. Comrade says, I have one in my house. I have one house in my name. God give you more. All right, let's have the anthems and then we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for listening.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Assemble back true honor, and this we count as gain to hand unto our children a banner without name. Oh Lord of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation when all that is oppressed. And so with these and Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be blessed. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ òmìnira bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀.
Àwa ni ọlẹ́ẹ̀kọ́ adúláwọ̀ ilé ẹ̀wọ̀n ní wọ́pọ̀ lágbára Ọlọ́run lẹ́yìn bó ní bàjẹ́ o. Ọlọ́run. May God bless you. May God keep you. May He cause His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May you be part of the solutions to the problems. His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May you be part of the solutions to the problems of this country. And may Yoruba land work in our time. And may Nigeria also work in our time. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. I'll see you again on Monday at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. Let's make it a date to have a lovely, lovely weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Odaro, Esheon, Math Treason, Esheon, comrade. Odaro, Eshe. So Shine, good to see you. All right. Thank you for being here.